I'm going to start with a confession. I found my guest today on LinkedIn in 2022 at a time when I'd come to the realization that I couldn't accomplish what I wanted to health-wise on my own. Our guest, he was posting things that made me think, I can't believe this guy is actually saying this stuff out loud. And then over time, my reaction shifted. I started thinking, I think he's onto something. And so I reached out, and then I hired him. Mauro Stara is the founder of Six Pack CEO, a coaching company built for one very specific person, the successful business owner or executive who's let their health fall to the back of the line while they built everything else. Mauro grew up in Switzerland, turned down a conventional banking career in his early 20s because he refused to spend his life wearing a suit from 7 to 7. And instead, he built a 7-figure coaching business from scratch, with 82% of his clients coming from referrals. He has a team of 6 elite coaches and doctors, and he works with high-achieving men all over the globe. And his argument is simple. You cannot build a strong mind without building a strong body. If you're running your company at half your physical capacity, you're making decisions at half your potential. I went through his program, I followed the plan, I got the results I was looking for, and I've kept those results over the last 4 years. Mauro, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. I've been excited to catch back up with you. So just so everybody listening knows, I started working with you in, I think it was April of 22, and I worked with you for just a little over a year to just dial in my health and optimize everything. And you and I haven't really talked much since then. We connected, we stay in touch a little bit, but that time of my life was probably one of the most stressful years, 2022. I was building 2 new businesses. I was a single dad planning a wedding, getting remarried, blending a large family together, looking for a house to live in, like all this stuff going on in my life. But when I look back at the end of that year, and I even wrote it in my journal, that I felt less stress in 2022, the latter half of 2022, than I could ever remember feeling, even with everything that was going on. And I credit a lot of that to my health journey that you helped me with. So first, I want to say thank you. And I think you'd be proud to know that a former client and student of yours, I just recently got my testosterone level checked. And, when I was working with you, we get it checked regularly, and every time it went up. Well, in 3 years, since you and I stopped working together directly, I've kept these habits in place. My testosterone actually has gone up 13 points in 3 years. So it didn't come down, which I was super excited about. I've maintained and even increased a little bit just by keeping these habits going. So whatever you're doing, man, keep doing it. And I appreciate what you do.
It wouldn't work without your effort and commitment, right?
Yeah, and that's what you always said to people. We would hold those calls regularly with the group, and people would say, "Hey, thank you for doing this." And you said, "Well, I kind of laid the plan out for you, and you followed it." So it does take somebody disciplined to follow that plan and want to make changes in their own life. I think it's the same way with finances. Like, you could nobody else is going to do this for you. This is something you got to do for yourself, with some guidance from somebody who knows what they're doing. But I want to start with your background a little bit. And you started in banking, Swiss banking, right? You're from Switzerland, and you live not in Switzerland anymore, but you got your start in banking. And you recognize what this is behind me?
Oh yeah.
I'm sitting in an old bank. That's a bank vault behind me that's just full of junk now. All the gold's been taken out, and not that they keep much cash on bank vaults anyway. But there's no cash in there either. But so you started in banking. What got you into banking in the first place?
Yeah. Before we dive into that, I was saying before, when I joined the vid, or when I saw your video, the background reminds me of, I don't know if you saw Fast and Furious 5, were in Brazil, and they robbed the. I don't know if it was a bank or not. Maybe it was a bank, but they robbed the $100 million of that Brazilian cartel boss.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It reminds me of that. So yeah, I was born in Switzerland and grew up there, and I worked for 5.5 years in banking. Yeah.
What did you do specifically in banking?
So I had two roles. The first probably three, almost 4 years. Yeah, pretty much the first 4 years were electronic banking. So clients would come in, and the team that I was working with, we would open their contracts and set up the entire online banking experience for them so that they could mobile bank and bank via desktop, iPad, whatever device they want to use, and they can do all the stuff banking electronically, right? So that was that part there, more like admin work and a little bit of tech support. So pretty basic stuff. And then I had some career offers to different banks, but I didn't really. I was not really that interested. The pay was very lucrative, but the idea of having to work 12, 14, 16 hours a day just for the rest of my life, with one of my core values being freedom and doing my own thing, didn't leave much room to do my own thing, right? So I already
Hmm.
had in mind, like, hey, and I was already working on that. I want to do my own stuff. And if I sacrifice time for more money, I can't build the online business and everything that I want. So I'd rather have less money now and more time so I can build that, right? And then the last half, or really the last 1.5 years plus minus in my banking career, I was in risk management, non financial risk. So anything around reputation, which I would argue is bigger than financial risk, right? Because if someone hacks your account or steals money, well, it would also go into reputational risk. But if there's like something financial, like someone robs a bank, yeah, sure, there's a risk. But the non-financial one, like your reputation, that is everything, right? If you
Yeah.
do one mistake, it can cost you your entire business, right? Worst case. So I was a junior there, and what I think really helped me in that role with my business is like, as entrepreneurs, we're always like very bullish and eager on the benefits, and our risk tolerance is very high, which I think it should be, but to a certain extent. And so this allowed me to see, okay, I don't need to just optimize the upside. I got to optimize the downside and have a strong floor, strong base.
Hmm.
So if you fall, you don't fall as deep, because again, a lot of entrepreneurs, they're very good at growth, scaling, vision, but like the system is everything on the back end, and like the infrastructure, the architecture, a lot of times it breaks. So having that other perspective really allowed me to see things from basically from a 360 angle versus just like a little bit more one dimensional.
Yeah, no, I love that. It's, protect the downside so that you can then focus on the upside, because that's where the fun is, right? As an entrepreneur, the growth is fun. The protection side has to get done though. I'm huge on that. And when it comes to finances, you got to protect the downside, protect your capital, and then go out and focus on increasing your income, building your business, building your empire, whatever that may be. So your journey is a lot like mine, where I got into corporate America after I left the military and realized pretty quickly there's no way I'm going to spend the next 30 years of my life doing this, giving my time to something I don't care that much about and building somebody else's business. So you started building your health coaching business during your full-time job in the banking industry, right? So what was that like? How did you get when did you get to the point where you said, I've got to quit. I've got to cut ties and just go full all in on my own business.
I can't remember the first time that thought came. I believe it was pretty early on, maybe 212, 213. I really can't remember like when the first thought came of, hey, this could be it, right? But I would say the most important decision was in summer 2015. I was already, so prior to banking, I was with ISS, right? ISS Facility Services, like the biggest facility management company in the world. And they, their whole thing is all out of one hand. They used to be a cleaning company, and then they started offering services around,
Mm.
electricity and plumbing and like everything you need to have your company function. And that was also something I took in terms of organizing myself and offering everything in house. So blood work, training, nutrition versus just one thing, right? So you could say I kind of stole their idea or big philosophy
Hmm.
towards mine. But I was first with them till 2013. And then 2013, I switched to banking. And as I switched to banking, after like 2 years in 2015, two friends and I went to a seminar. And during that seminar, they presented like different career paths. And one of the paths that I was interested in, and they as well, was it was kind of similar to a bachelor, but less, well, it was still studying, but a little bit less studying and more practical versus the bachelor's. You go more to school and less to work. And this one is more practical because I'm a practical learner. Like I got to do
Hmm.
stuff to learn it. I can't just focus on the theory. So more doing a little bit less theory, but similar height or level of degree in economics. And so that was a career path. And then they said, okay, this is what's going to cost you. What are you going to do? And the different roles, like you can be like a junior manager. You have like 2, 3 employees under you, team leader, this and this and this, right? So during that presentation, I was like, okay, the pay is good, right? You'll be making like, good 6 figures, and with the opportunity to go to set the base for multi 6 figures, which is pretty solid in copper in Switzerland. I don't know how it is in the US and everything. And of course, the upside can be bigger,
Hmm.
but like I was 20, 22 back then. So at 25, I was looking like mid 6 figures. Not a bad income, right? If you think
Yeah.
about it.
No, that's solid.
So, uh, but what I didn't like was the downside, which is like, okay, you're gonna be, 7 to 7 in the office, 5 days a week, maybe 6 days a week, and you're gonna be, locked in that office in a suit, and like, for me, it was all about, well, okay, yes, I want to make money, but I also want to enjoy stuff. Like, I want to go to the gym, meet some friends, go on dates, like whatever that lifestyle or your schedule looks like. And this would just mean you get up 6 a.m., shower, go to
Yep.
work, and then you're back home at 8. When will you work out? When will you cook? It's like
Have a
you go to
life.
bed
Yeah.
and you just repeat it. And the idea of living that lifestyle, that was just, there was no money that would have been worth it, right? At least not for a long period of time. Like,
Yeah.
of course, someone says, "I'll pay you 10 million if you do that for a year." You'd be stupid not to. But like, knowing this is, as you said, right? Knowing this is what the next 30, 40 years are going to look like for me, there's no way I want to do that for the next
Yeah.
3, 4 decades. So my two friends signed the paper, signed up. They're like, we're going to do this. And for me, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to do this. And, swimming against the path, like everyone does that and you're not doing
Hmm.
it. For me, that was a big risk because the risk is the unknown, the uncertainty. Like, what if it doesn't work? What if you do all of this, like the entrepreneurship, and it doesn't work out? And then you've just missed out 5, 10 years of your life. You'll be the guy that's like, making, it doesn't have a great career and career path, not making that much money compared to you others. So like in the social hierarchy, you'll be like pretty
Yeah.
low.
Right.
And that was always a idea and pressure in my head. And the first few years, things didn't work out just as it kind of normally is in business when you start.
Hmm.
And the pressure was bigger. Like you start to second guess, right? But that was probably the defining moment in like 2015 where I said, no, like this can't be it. I don't want to do that, right? So the thoughts were prior, but I can't remember when they started. But the big catalyst, the decision was in 2015.
So, and I think, I mean, the questions you were asking yourself are all fear based. Um, right. And that's what I was asking myself the same questions when I left my cushy corporate America job with all the benefits and the good pay and, regular salary and all that. But it's all fear based. It's, what if, what if, what if? And then what are people going to think of me? And so how did you overcome the fear? Because it's either something's got to be stronger than the fear of failure and the fear of looking like an idiot and falling behind your peer group and all that. So what was it? And did you do anything specific to like overcome that fear of moving into the unknown and building your own business?
So I told myself, if by 30 it doesn't work out, I'll give it up, right? Because eventually I can be 35, 40, 50 and like still
Still
figuring
trying?
this out. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like I told myself, look, you can always go back to work, right? Like work, like you can always go back
Yes.
into the corporate path. It may be a little bit rocking harder, but you can always pick things up, right? So, and I was still working. It's not that I pulled the trigger in 2015. So that was like the reframe. I would say one of the things that helped me a lot is even today is my ability to reframe things. So said, okay, there are guys that I know, whether it's like movie stars, rappers, entrepreneurs, not personally know, but know their story. They have done way harder things than I have. And I always
Hmm.
told myself, like, dude, stop being a pussy. Like, just man up. You got this,
Yeah.
right? So, like, the self talk and over talking the fear and like reframing it has helped me a lot. But I would say, it was a push pull. So the pain of having to be in that corporate job was so big. Like you cannot imagine it. It's like well paid and
Hmm.
it was close to where I was living, like 10-15 minute drive. So on paper it looked great, but being in that office, taking orders from others, like the every day that I walked in there, it's like, man, like it's one day too much. Like I hated it. Like the more I
Yeah.
stayed in there, I felt I was rotting. So the pain was a huge driver. And then the gain on the other side was big, but not as big as the pain. So the pain was definitely a huge motivator. And I would get sick a lot in from the stress and everything there as well. So that was also a big motivator. But the gain was, look, I told myself, and one of the books that really helped me there was the 10 Pillars of Wealth from Alex Becker.
Okay.
It's the book. One of the lessons there is where there's a few lessons, but one of the big lessons there is what if versus what is. And a lot of
Hmm.
people think, what if, what if, what if? But he's like, just focus on what is. Because when there's, as you said, all that fear, it's like, what if this, what if this, what if this? And he's like, no, go back to what is. What is right now? What are the facts and not what if? When the
Yeah.
what if comes, it becomes a what is, and then you figure it out. But what if the what if never comes? Then you focus on something that never deserved your attention. So that really helped me because there was always things like, okay, what if this, what if that? And it's like, all right,
Right.
calm down, and the anxiety goes down, and then you just focus on what is. That was a great lesson. And another lesson that he has was break down the numbers. And I've never done that exercise. And he said, okay, what is the income that you want? And what is the service that you're selling it? What is the price point of the service that you're selling
Hmm.
or product? How much do you need to sell per month, per year, per day? And so when I was doing the math, and I can't remember what I first charged, but it was I think 500 a month or something, plus minus. And my goal was to move to south of Spain or Greece, and I knew with like 3-4 grand a month, you live like a king there.
Oh yeah.
And so I said, okay, if I charge 1,500 for a 3-month package, I only need to sell two a month, which is one every 14 days. So it's like,
Right.
okay, do I believe I can sell one of these every 14 days? And once I ask myself that question, everything changes. Like, of course, like it's
Yeah.
just one client every 14 days. Like, I can do that. it's not going to be easy, but like if that's all it takes, one new client every 14 days for me to quit my job and move down there, awesome. And I always said, look, I'm okay making way less than I was doing in banking, but have sunshine, the
Hmm.
ocean, freedom, and not having a boss and being my own boss, right? So I would say those two lessons really helped and breaking down the math. And once I saw that and wrote down the numbers, I knew exactly, okay, so these are numbers. How many sales calls do I need to close one? Okay, closing percentage is this. So I need so many calls. How many offer? Like I just broke down the numbers and I said, okay, if I do this per day, by the end of the week, I'm going to have this. And every 2 weeks, I'm going to have this. And by the end of the month, I'm going to have that. Right. So, of course, not linear and not perfect, but like on average, it pretty much works. Right.
Yeah, no, I love that. So you gave yourself a timeline. You said, "Hey, until if this isn't working out, by the time I'm 30, I'll go back to work." And then you kind of did. One thing I learned from following Tim Ferriss, and maybe it was in his 4 Hour Workweek book. He talks about fear setting, and he says fear setting is basically asking, "What's the absolute worst thing that could happen?" And I had to ask
Yes,
it.
I remember I read that book, and I
Yeah,
think that question came from there with what's the worst? And for
yeah,
me, was you just have to go out and get a job again at 30. And I was like, I
yeah,
can live with that. Yes, I think
yeah.
that was actually one of the starting points where my thoughts first crossed with the 4 hour work week. Yes,
Yep.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
brought that up.
Hey, everybody, David here. I just want to take a few seconds and introduce you to a community that I'm a co founder of and I've been a part of for 6 years now. Many of you listening are already members and you know what I'm talking about. I want to introduce you to CoSpark. Real financial strength comes from owning the structures that everybody else pays into. CoSpark is a member owned commonwealth, a community where your participation builds towards real ownership stake in businesses and assets that are acquired and in capital. Look, I'm a member because I believe in it, but dive in for yourself and check it out. Go to cospark.us. That's COSPARK.us. Now back to the show. Hey, everybody, quick break here because I want to tell you about another podcast that I've been running for over 4 years now with my podcast partner, Paul Fougere. It's called the Wealth Warehouse Podcast. We're two military veterans talking about how to control your capital just like the banks. We've been putting out new episodes every Monday for the last 4.5 years. If you want to deep dive into the infinite banking concept and learn how to control your capital like the banks, give every dollar more than one job, and create a legacy for your family, the Wealth Warehouse Podcast is a show you're going to want to listen to. So check it out. You can find it on every platform, including the one you're listening to right now. Thanks for checking it out. Now back to the show. Yeah, no, and it's good. But, then I think about it, I'm like, if I only worked 4 hours a week, what would I do with the rest of my life? Because I need to be producing. You want to be productive. That's kind of how we're built. But, maybe eventually, maybe I'll work 4 hours a week, like when I'm in my 60s. But in the meantime, I enjoy work. Um, but I love that because I think fear is the biggest thing that holds people back from anything. It's always, what if it doesn't work out? I like asking, well, what if it does? How could this change your life? So when you look at your life now versus what it was then when you were working in an office, wearing a suit and, getting up at 6 a.m. to shower, shave, and put on a suit and go to the office every day for 12 hours, like how much different is your life right now? And how much more exciting is it?
Oh, it's dramatically different. And I just want to add something before I share more. You and I chatted a while ago on masterminds, and I brought up the Artist Syndicate to you from
Hmm.
Andy Frizzell and Ed Milet.
Right.
And one of the things they said there a few years ago that really gave me awareness on what helped me push through those years where things were not working, and I still doubled down in banking to build my online stuff is Andy said, winners focus on what they get, losers focus on what they have to give up. So he was talking about guys
Hmm.
wanting to get in shape and said,
Yeah.
oh, I have to give up beer, I have to give up bread, I have to give up this. And it's like, those are losers. He's like, the winners focus on, well, I get this, this, this. So for me, I was so focused on, hey, I get to manage my own schedule. I get to be my own boss. I can live wherever I want. that was such a big driver. Like, it was still the pain, right? But the pain of quitting my job or having the ability to quit my job, which would bridge into the vision of what I will get, that was just so strong that no matter what I had to do, it's like, if that's all I have to do, I'll do it, right?
Yeah.
So was it worth it? 100%. And, I was thinking a lot, like, and I always thank God and I'm very grateful for the life I have. Like, in April 2019 was, I think, 17th or 19th April 2019 is when I officially quit my job. So over 7 years ago. And I'm super grateful because if I look back, like, I know exactly, like, if I look at the clock, it's like 3:30 p.m. right now. I know, like, this will be my last 1.5 hours, 2.5 hours of the day. I'll be in the office. I know exactly what I'm doing. And I know a lot of coworkers that are still there doing the same stuff, complaining
Hmm.
about it, but not doing anything. And I
Yeah.
always think that could have been me. Like, I would have just been there right now and rotting inside, like rotting my soul. And, one of the things that I would say has been really, really beneficial is the you talked about productivity before. My life is way more productive and efficient. Meaning, when I was in banking and after work, like, let's say 5:30, 6, 7, whatever time I would get home, I would get home, take a protein shake, and then go to the gym. And the gym was crowded, so my
Hmm.
gym session took longer. I would always go grocery shopping on Saturday morning when there were a lot of people. So you do a lot of the activities when other people do them, which means things are more crowded and busy, which means you lose more time. Now, I know exactly, if I go to the gym 10, 11, there's not a lot of people. If I go shopping around 2 p.m., or yeah, usually 2 p.m., 3 p.m., there's not a lot of people. So, but 5,
Hmm.
6, right? Gyms are crowded, supermarkets are crowded. So you go to do the things that you need to do at times that there's nobody there. And now an activity that took you 1.5 hours takes you 1 hour or 20 minutes instead of 30. Like, and if you accumulate that over years and decades, dude, those
Yeah.
hours, priceless.
What you
So
gain.
I would say
Yeah.
that's a huge thing. Being able to manage my own schedule is just massive. Not even for traveling, right? Like, I know a lot of people say, "Oh, travel, travel." I think it's great, but it also disrupts your routine. But just being able to design my own routine, like, I want to wake up at this time. I want to have my first meeting then. I want to have breakfast then, lunch then. Like, that is just absolutely priceless. And before, it was just, let me squeeze things in, rush through lunch and so on. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's priceless, man.
Yeah. So you mentioned the word freedom earlier. And I think a lot of people talk about you want the freedom. And when you really boil it down, what freedom is control. You have control over your schedule. You have control over who you interact with most often. Like in your case, you choose who your clients are, and you don't have to say yes to every client, right? You don't work with everybody. So I think control to me is one of the biggest things. You also mentioned, protecting the downside. Did you have the downside protected? Like, were you financially okay to leave your job and go start your own business or focus 100% on your own business? Like, how much runway did you give yourself financially?
No, so I was not at all.
No.
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm a little bit of a hypocrite there, but what happened was, I it was um it was 2018, no, 2017. I hired my first mentor, saw a little bit of traction, and then 2018 I hired another one and paid a lot more money than the first one, and saw even, yeah, some more traction. And so multiple things happened. I had heart issues. We can dive into that story. That was ultimately what had me resign my job, or one of the big factors. But the other factor was where I said, "Look, I have around 2 hours, maybe 3 hours a day to work on my business. Usually, I would
Hmm.
get up in the morning. Depending when I would get up, I would work 1 hour. And then after work, I would work 2 hours, and you got to do other stuff. And I was like pretty tired and exhausted. And I said, there's just not enough time. And
Yeah.
granted, I was focusing on the wrong things, because 3 hours a day are not too bad to focus on building your business if you do the right things. But I was doing like
Mhm.
just a bunch of stuff.
If you optimize.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it was not optimized and it was chaotic. But I was just, I needed more time. So I realized, okay, I will eventually get there because I have a good amount of willpower and discipline. But what if I have 10 hours a day to work on it versus three? Like, I can get done in a week what I will get done in like 5, 6 weeks if I quit my job. And like, that just pushed me over the edge eventually, and said, okay, I'll just take the risk, because I'm not going to, I may be another 2 years in, banking, and have nothing to show for.
Right.
And, one of my mentors early on, or I mean, it was not one on one, but I took his course, Sam Ovens. He said, and that was one of the best lessons I ever learned, is there's always a golden opportunity in life for certain things before it closes. So if you think like, you know, immigration or visas, like certain countries, they say like, hey, if you invest, you get this passport.
Hmm.
And now like this option is not anymore available. Or if you do this, this happens. And so back in the days, everyone says if they go back, they would run Facebook ads, because much sooner, spend more, because it was so cheap, right? And that
Yeah.
timeline is gone after that Cambridge scandal, right? Uh, and so there's like all, like back in the days on LinkedIn, right? You could add unlimited amount of people and grow your network. Today it's like what, 100 people a week or 200 a week. So it's like
Mm.
pretty tight. So like all these opportunities or windows are gone, and I knew like, okay, there's a big opportunity for online businesses right now, and the barrier for entry is low. Eventually, it's just going to become a floodgate, right? And like, I have to do it. Like, I knew
Yeah.
there's urgency. I have to do it. So if I had to redo it, I'll probably do it a little bit different than back then, because it was a lot of stress, like a lot of anxiety, a lot of sleepless nights, and paying the bills and stuff. But thankfully, it worked out pretty well.
Yeah. So I want to hit on that for a second because I listened to Jay Abraham, who's one of the best strategists in the world. Like the guy commands like $100,000 a day for one-on-one time, right? But he had a podcast episode and he talked about um, figuring out how to decrease the amount of time you work in your business and increase your income at the same time. And one of the things he posed is, and maybe Tim Ferriss does this too, if you could only spend 2 or 3 hours a day on your business to move the needle, what would you do? So if you said, if you would do things a little differently, what would you have done differently if you go back? Do you think you could actually build this business and work a full-time job now that you know what to focus on? Is that even possible? Like for somebody out there who's full-time job and they're kind of doing their business on the side, do you think that's something that can be done?
It depends. So let me break it down. Part of what took me a lot of time is, and that's why I say it depends. I was born in Switzerland, and my mother language, main language, is German, Swiss German, German. I did learn English in school, but it was not at a top notch degree. So every day I would read a book in English for 30 to 60 minutes out loud, and like mark the words I didn't understand, then look them up and write it. And that was one thing. The other thing, I was learning copywriting. Back then we didn't have
Mm,
AI. So I had
right.
to read long form sales letters, write it out, and rewrite the copy, and learn sales as well. So scripts, reframes, objection handling. So a lot was building up the skill set to be able then to create the output. So I had to build that input for me to improve my output. So the
Mm,
output itself, what I was creating, writing content, writing emails, that was not a lot, right? So 3 hours a day, yes. 100%. If you know how to write copy, and I think today with AI, 100% doable. If you know how to write copy, not perfect, but to a good level, you have a good offer and good product. It may take you 1 hour a day max, and you can pump out probably 2, 3 pieces of content that 1 hour. But let's say you only write one piece of content, one email, one social post that you can distribute. Again, with AI, nearly
Yeah.
impossible not to be able to do that.
Right.
And then let's say the second hour you would take a sales call, right? And the third hour would be coaching or delivery of the product, customer service. 100% doable.
Hey, everybody, quick break here because I want to tell you about another podcast that I've been running for over 4 years now with my podcast partner, Paul Fougere. It's called the Wealth Warehouse Podcast. We're two military veterans talking about how to control your capital just like the banks. We've been putting out new episodes every Monday for the last 4.5 years. If you want to deep dive into the infinite banking concept and learn how to control your capital like the banks, give every dollar more than one job, and create a legacy for your family, the Wealth Warehouse Podcast is a show you're going to want to listen to. So check it out. You can find it on every platform, including the one you're listening to right now. Thanks for checking it out. Now back to the show.
But if you have to learn the skills, meaning you don't know how to sell, right? Now you're doing that sales call, you suck, right? You get to think about it or whatever objection.
Mm-hmm.
You need some sales training and need to role play. So I was role playing 2, 3 days a week with other fitness professionals who were selling something similar as me, and we're role playing for 90 minutes. And I was writing copy, had it reviewed, rewrite it. So like the whole skill thing, that's what took so much time, and that's what led me to quit the job. Like I knew, okay, the whole delivery part and everything. Like yeah, once you get a lot of clients, then eventually those 3 hours won't be enough. But like
Right.
it's the skill. So one of the masterminds I joined, there was one guy that came in, and within a year he was making like 500 grand a year. And after my first year, I was like, I made like 10K or so. So
Yeah.
the gap was huge, and I was frustrated because I said, I put in equally amount of work as he did, but he was a door-to-door sales guy, and he worked as a fitness model before. Like he was on all covers and had like a huge Instagram. So he had a big audience. He knew how to sell like very,
Mm-hmm.
very well. So sales is on point, branding is on point. When he puts out the same piece of copy, even worse than mine, it will still perform better. He has the authority, he has the trust, he has the audience, and he knows how to close people. So I had to build all of that, and I knew it takes me way more time. So long answer to your question, but I would say it depends where someone starts, right? So if, for example, if I had to restart a business today from scratch, or you, Dave, like we have a different level of skill set than 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, right? We've
For
learned a
sure.
lot. So it's
Yeah.
much, much quicker to get things up from the ground because you just know what works and you have the skill sets that you can bring in. And that's why when entrepreneurs buy or start a second, third, fourth business, like it doesn't take them as long as the first one because the skill set is there. So again, depends on the skill set from that person. But I would say today with AI and everything, yeah, it should be doable to run it to a certain degree simultaneously.
Yeah. I tell my kids this all the time. There's no reason you should ever only have one job. I've got a son at home and he's like, oh, they only gave me 38 hours this week. And I say, well, why do you only have one job? Like there's no reason this day and age. I've known somebody before who had 4 full-time jobs at the exact same time because they were all remote and it was pretty much doing the same thing for 4 different companies. And no other company knew he had a job with anybody else. But, I think people are capable of a lot more than they think they are. So you've come from making $10,000 a year and now your business is, gross over 7 figures, right? You've hit that 7-figure benchmark, which I think as an entrepreneur, you start out. And of course, the first benchmark you want to hit is you want to make enough money to live off of so that you don't have to go back and get another job. So that's usually, I'm going to hit $100,000 in income this year. And then the next milestone is really $1 million. Like that's the ultimate, everybody's got that $1 million year in mind, how did you have to evolve as a person, as a business owner, as a leader to go from somebody only producing 10,000 a year to producing $1 million plus a year? How did you have to change?
Great question. I remember one of my mentors said when he was running a 5-figure business and looking back, and now he's running a 7-figure or high six. Yeah, I think it was very high six, almost 7-figure. He's like the guy that was running that 5-figure business. He was not capable of leading that, and I never understood what he mean by that. He was talking about identity and said like, yeah, that person's identity. I thought like, whatever, man. Like you just need to market, right?
Yeah.
But looking back, like there are so many, I see like as an onion, like so many peels and layers that I had to take away and let go of my old self, so to say, to get to where I am. But I would say it's a great question, man. Got my brain spinning.
Well, because, I had a coach. I joined a mastermind when I first when I started my first business, which is real estate investing. And what he said, and all of everybody in the mastermind, their goal was to make $1 million in a year. And it wasn't even like net a million. It was just gross a million, which doesn't mean that much necessarily, depending on how much your expenses are. But he said, because he'd been there, he started at the bottom. He built multi-million-dollar business. And he said, when you set this goal and you achieve it, the money isn't the reward. It's who you had to become over that time to be able to achieve that. That's the real reward. So, and I guess I haven't really looked back and pondered on who was I, 9 years ago when I started my entrepreneur journey to who I am now. But you look at everything you've been through, and there's certainly a lot of changes you had to make and a lot of growth. You had a partnership. That was probably a pretty difficult thing that you had to grow through, I
Yes.
imagine. I had one as well. And I don't think it ended as, maybe yours was a little more of an emotional experience than mine was, being a good friend. But, what did you learn from that experience? Just having a partnership that broke up and a friendship that broke up at the same time.
Yeah, that I never want to be a partner again in business.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, when it was my best friend back then, and we had an awesome relationship together. Like hit the gym, go out. Like everything was awesome. Like he knew my family, I knew his family, so everything was great. And his career path was more towards the corporate world and stability, and I was more
Hmm.
risk adverse. And when it came to doing certain projects and things, like I move very, very fast. Like I move extremely fast. And I don't say that to be cocky, but like there are very few people that when we do something together that can keep up my pace over time, not just for a week. So I don't like to do things with other people. I like to do them myself because then I just have to wait for others and it will delay everything. So
Hmm.
with him, he was more for the tech side and I was more for marketing and product design and so on. And but there were decisions that he also needed to make. And I would send him something and said, "Hey, I've done that. What do you think about this?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'll have a look at it." And then like a week went by, and I asked him like, "Where are we at with this?" And he's like, "Yeah, I haven't gotten to it. I'll get back to you." And then another week went by, and eventually he said like, "Oh, I don't like this. I think we should do it like this." I'm like, "Wow, 2 fucking weeks to send me like one little phrase back, right?" And then you make another change, another 1 2 weeks went by, and I said, and in my mind I said, okay, that's an extra month that I'm trapped in my job. You know,
Yeah.
I could be
Right.
free.
Yeah.
Like if you think about prison break, like I could be free 1 month earlier.
Yeah.
So when uh when that urgency crossed my mind, I sat down with him. I said, "Hey man, like I noticed like the pace and everything is a bit different. What's going on your end? Like it doesn't seem like this is really a priority." He's like, "No, I want to do this." And I said, But your actions are not really aligned with your words, right? Or your words are not aligned with your actions." And he said, like, "Well, I don't want to risk it all for this. Like I also have my other stuff I need to learn. I have exams. And for me, then it clicked, right? Like
Yeah.
for him, it was basically like a hobby, a side project. Like if it works out, awesome. If it doesn't work out, and he probably thought it won't work out. Let me have the safety net there. And for me, it was
Right.
like, that is my number one priority. That is my thing. Like the job is the backup. And for him, that was more like, you
Mm,
know, so eventually I said, look, we need to move at the same pace. And I want this to work. If you don't want this to work, that's fine, right? And then he said, like, okay, I'll do better. And it got a little better, but then, people go back to their old habits. So eventually I said, okay, look, it's not going to work out. I'm going to do this on my own. Send me your bank account. I'll pay you out for all your stuff. It was not a lot. It was very early on in the journey, which I'm very happy because I don't want to imagine what it
yeah.
would look
Right.
like today. And then he's like, well, if you do that, I can't remember how it was phrased, but it was kind of like, if you do that, if you split up the business, that will also split the friendship. And for me, it was a huge shock because I did not see it emotionally. I did not see it personally. I could actually understand his position, right? It's like you want the safe career path,
Hmm.
and that is totally fine. Like I will never judge someone for that. That's just not me. And he kind of wanted me to ride the ship, take him on. And if it works out, he'll be, he'll have a
Right.
golden goose. But if it doesn't work out, he has his thing, right? And it's like that's
Yeah.
not how the world works, man. And we're not making like money or anything there. So again, imagine if we did. And that just taught me like the never get into partnership was more like a joke, but just very, very careful on that. And I rather do things alone in that regard. But it was a good learning lesson. There was a lot of fear because I thought like, man, without the tech stuff, I'm not a tech guy. I don't know how to build a website and all that. And I thought like that is it. Like without that, I can't make it
Yeah.
work. And eventually, I reached out a lot of people, found someone. And once that part was done and figured out, like that was a huge relief. And having that combo with him, that confrontation was, there was a lot of fear around it and that things wouldn't work out. But it was one of the best decisions that I ever made. Because if I didn't take that decision, I would not be, we would not be talking today, right?
Yeah.
We would have led to nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like as I've transitioned to a entrepreneur or business owner and that whole mindset shift that you have when you do that, my circle is really tightened. I have a hard time relating to a lot of people, and your friend circle gets a lot smaller. In one sense, like some old friends are, you might catch up with them and all that, but there's not a whole lot to talk about anymore because you're building something and they're going to a job. And that's great for that people enjoy that. Great. I think one of the things that I've seen over my term and getting to the point that I'm at is a lot of difficult conversations. Like you had with your friend. I'm sure that was not an easy conversation, but that's part of the territory, I guess, of building a business and being an entrepreneur is you got have a lot of difficult conversations, uncomfortable, put yourself in uncomfortable positions, right? To grow. Just like if you want to grow your muscles, they got to get uncomfortable, right? No different than
Spot on.
than growing a business. So what would you say? Now you said you like to go alone, but you brought on more people to your team. Has that been difficult to kind of delegate and let go of some things that you were in charge of before?
Not at all. No.
Really?
And maybe I should clarify like the the go alone doesn't mean like no support or mentors or a team. It's more the CEO decisions.
Yeah.
Like if you and I need, and I don't know if you watched that interview with Jeff Bezos and Lex Friedman, where he was talking and breaking down his decision making process. And he said, like, just pick one door, and if it's the wrong door, you can walk back and go into the other door, and if you can't walk back, well, you just got to figure it out. But the worst thing is just to procrastinate and say, like, should we go here, should we go here?
Mm,
So it's like, open the next door, like, move,
yeah.
right? And I could 100% relate to his decision making process. But no, so maybe some small things may have been difficult where you think like, can I give that to that person? Like, will it be the same quality? But overall, again, it goes back to Tim Ferriss' book where he said like it's okay that it's not at the same 100% level that you operated it initially, and eventually over time it will get to that level, and you'll be surprised how many people do their job better than you anticipate when you give them something. I guess it comes down to who you hire as well, right? Are you hiring an A player, B player? Who you're hiring? How are you training them? And that has been huge because when things really took off in my business, like right around when we were working together, 2021, 2022, like I was working a lot of hours, like 50, 60, sometimes I think even 80 hours a week. And now with the team, that is just massive. I've got 6 people on the team, and
Hmm.
5 are full time, and it's huge. Like the relief in terms of getting buying back my time and knowing that stuff is taken care of, it's uh it's probably the best investment I made, really better than any other investment, because it buys you back all that time that now you can reinvest into the business, but also say, you know what, I can do whatever I want with that time, right?
Yeah. No, that's huge. So that sounds like one of the biggest things you've done to change your business from where it was at to where it's at today. What would you say? Are there any, maybe one or two other big things that you would say really propelled your business to the point that it's at right now? And I imagine you still have goals to continue growing, right? You're not going to cap your clientele, right? You want to keep growing and pushing and optimizing and hitting that next milestone. So, besides bringing on more people who are qualified and do a good job to help you build that team, what else? What are one, two other things that are real big? Had you known these things earlier, maybe you would have, you know, accelerated a lot quicker.
I don't think anything would have accelerated that much quicker, but I would say the biggest shifts were always focusing on creating a better product, because improve it, like so many people focus on marketing and sales, and
Hmm.
there's no question that that is important, but very few focus or put the same amount of money and time into the product. And so for me, I focus a lot on the customer journey and making that better, as flawless as possible, right? Like right now, the entire last 2 months I've spent time with the developer, touching base every week to build like a dashboard and interface and like a whole software in Claude for me, for my team, for our clients, that is going to change the game in terms of better client results, better quality, uh, better customer experience for the clients that they will have, right? And always focusing on creating a better product and service
Mm.
across the board. Because if that is better and clients get better results, faster results, then clients will just speak for themselves and refer people to you. So that is a big one. I would say shifting also from operator to more of a leader and manager. So initially, when you and I worked together, I was more like a COO, like a lot in operations,
Hmm.
and not working a little bit more direct with customers. And now I'm mentoring the team, creating SOPs for them, training them, hiring people to train them and me, and optimizing everything, looking at data. So it's it's similar to what I did with clients, but now I'm doing it with the team, right? And the role has shifted there. So I'm more a coach to my team than to my clients now. And that has been a big shift. And when you start out and you're like a one-man show, you do everything, and letting go of a lot of these things and focusing on CEO stuff, a lot on culture, core values, and mentoring the team and implementing those things has been instrumental to our success, I would say. Because people don't just want a job and they don't want to just get paid. Like, they need to have a mission and some sort of code to live by, and clarity on what matters and what not. And working on that was initially very hard, because like I never had to lead other people. And sure, you lead your clients, but it's a little bit different. And you don't have like them really reporting to you, like maybe, but like it's a different context. And it was just a transition from role, so less of a coach and again more of a CEO and manager, right?
Yeah.
You also
So,
asked me about growth and capping. So I know a lot of owners always want to grow, grow, grow. And yes, we want to grow more, but eventually we'll cap it and focus more on premium boutique level versus just for the masses. Because I know many competitors out there who just scale, to the moon, and their operations a lot of times breaks. And even though they go on
mhm,
podcasts and put out videos that everything is fine, like we have a lot of clients from various of those coaches and companies that come to us and that share like, yeah, I was just a number, or this didn't work, this didn't happen. And I always said, yes, I want us to grow, but not at the cost of client success, not at the cost of, all right, let's just make money. And it doesn't matter if our success and quality goes down. For me, it's much more important to be the company with the highest success rate and the best product in the market versus the company that's just super big. So I'm rather the Bugatti, the Ferrari, Lamborghini than just a Toyota. That, and nothing against Toyota, right? But just like Toyota or any other, you know, maybe bigger brand, but something that's a little bit more hands-on and premium, and not everyone can get access to. And that we have the best of the best of the best people out there that we work with. And that means we have to be the best and have the best product and service out there.
yeah. No, and it's evident by the fact that 82% of your clients come from referral, which is amazing. And anybody who can build a business around referrals will never be out of business, as long as you keep that client focus and keep a good product and deliver, right? So you work predominantly with business owners and CEOs, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And mostly guys around my age in their mid 40s. Some might say later 40s when my birthday hits in a month, but mid 40s. I think there's a huge correlation, and I know this because I went through the program, between finances and fitness and every area of your life, really, family as well. Um, and maybe you have some stats on that, but I personally found, as I focused on my fitness and optimizing it there, I was able to have the energy to optimize my business. So do you have stats, or do you have a lot of feedback from your clients on that, like how maybe their business performance has improved over time just because they're focusing on their fitness, on their health, on themselves?
Yes. So I'm not going to be the guy that says like, oh yeah, everyone's going to make, millions and millions more if
Right.
they have a six pack. That's just BS. But I'll say this, like, in life, there's no guarantee for anything, right? Like, there's absolutely zero guarantee. But what I can guarantee you is that if you're at your peak in terms of your fitness, you put yourself in the best spot possible to maximize your business growth. Meaning, if you import stuff, I don't know, and now the tariffs hit you, a six pack is not going to change that. Like, you will have a dip, but you know, hey, I'm top 1% in my fitness. I'm very disciplined. So you push back and you fight back, and rather than playing the victim, you start to be more creative and find opportunities. So that mental strength that it took you to go from obese or out of shape down to the fit, lean, and jack guy, those lessons along the way will help you, will spill over in your business, and they will help you make those decisions in your business where others, they will, I don't want to say play the victim card, but they may be more sloppy and just, they haven't been had their back against their wall when it comes to their health, and had to push and push and, fight and do the hard works and have all these workouts in them, that they hate failure, and they know what it's like to
Yeah.
make those, to go through that physical pain to strengthen. Like, you cannot have a strong mind without a strong body. So building that strong body will just create a stronger mind. And I believe when you're faced with adversity or have a lot of stress and pressure in business, that's where most entrepreneurs crumble. And if you have a solid baseline with your health, maybe you will still crumble, but the odds are just lower, right? That you will, and they're higher that you'll push back, you'll fight back, and you'll find a way out of it. Now, can you be obese and still make a way out of it? Of course, right? There's no doubt about that. But we can all agree that if you're at your peak fitness, you're more productive, you're sharper, you make better, faster decisions, and ultimately that'll put you in a better spot in business, right? But there are guys, like we have guys, for example, there's one guy in corporate, uh, he has no control over his income and the promotion ladder. So whether he's jacked or out of shape, he would really, well, he would really have to change career paths or his job for
Hmm.
him to make more money, right? Because whether he produces more or not, like in his case, it's not going to happen. But we have others, like an insurance agent. He was, I don't know how much he was making, but he came to our program, dropped like 50, 60 pounds, 4 belt sizes down, and he doubled or tripled his business in a year. And he didn't do
Yeah.
that the last 20, 30 years. So it's not that there was just something magically happened that didn't happen 3 decades ago. It's, he saw what he was capable of with his body and health and said, you know what, I've been playing at a very low level in business. I can do more. And that motivated him to do more in business, right? So again, I would say it depends on the context of the person, but you just put yourself in a significantly better spot to produce.
Yeah. Uh, that's a pretty incredible story. I mean, I'll just give you my own anecdotal story from working with you. Is in 2022 is when I started. I made a I made the best income of my life in 2022, but 2023 I tripled that. So I had the biggest income boost from 22 to 23 than any other time in my entire life. And I'm not going to say it's 100% because I focus on my health, right? There's other factors involved, but that was certainly one of the big ones. And that did give me an extra edge. I will say, if we want to talk about specifically just fitness and health for a second, I think one thing you taught me, and I tell this to everybody I talk to who's like, hey, I'm out on a jog today because I need to lose some weight. Or my buddies are like, oh, I just can't lose any weight. I'm like, do you walk? Walking is the biggest hack that nobody talks about. Like, hands down, I still walk. I go on 2 or 3 walks a day around my neighborhood because you force me to walk 10,000 steps a day at least. And I still do it. I don't wear a Fitbit anymore because I don't need to. I know how long it takes to walk 10,000 steps. It takes 100 minutes, basically. So if I go on 3 walks during the day, I've nailed it. So I do that, prioritize sleep. I keep my same eating habits, and I work out 3 times a week for about 30 minutes in the gym with weights. Like, that's all things that your program instilled in me, and I continued on. And yeah, it's been one of the biggest stress reliefs is no kidding, walking. I think that's the hack I would give anybody. For you, what advice would you give to the 40-something entrepreneur who's, I don't have time to work out. I don't have time for this or that. My schedule's too hectic, blah, blah, blah. What can I do to optimize my health, or at least steer it in the right direction? What would be the starting advice?
Get blood work done. Hands
Yeah.
down, the best thing you can do. Because I'll say this, when I started offering blood work, it was mainly because there were some guys that they'll put in the work, but the results were like super slow or almost non-existent. And I said, there's something more than just walking and calories and lifting weights. Like, these guys are religiously doing the work and something is off. And then we looked at their hormones and other stuff, and we could see, okay, there are other factors at play that they will not block things, but they will slow down things for certain people to extreme levels. And so that was the main reason. But ever since we implemented blood work for our clients, the success rate and the drive and commitment has been through the roof from day one. And the reason is, most guys, and we talked like 5 minutes ago or so, we talked a lot about maybe vanity, like losing weight, but really, most guys, when they look in the mirror, they know, like, okay, I've got some fat that I need to lose and I'm a little bit overweight. But once they get the blood work done and see, like, wow, I'm pre-diabetic, like, I had no idea I'm pre-diabetic. My
Yeah.
liver is fatty and the kidney function is down and my testosterone is low and my inflammation is high. My visceral fat, if they get a DEXA scan, is high. Now bone density is down, immune system is shot. Now they see all those things and like, wow, like, I thought I was just here a little bit overweight, but like,
Yeah.
it seems like, all these things are out of whack. So now they have a huge reason and huge drive. And I say that because anyone who says like, oh, I'm too busy to work out, to walk, like, one, you probably don't have the proper system set up. Like with a desk treadmill, you can easily get 10,000 steps a day while working. Number two, working out, if you work out 3 days a week, 30 minutes, that's 90 minutes a week. That's 6 hours a month. You probably spend more time on the phone in 2 days than, those 6 hours working out. So rather than like sharing all the tactics, the blood work, once you see how fucked up things are, you automatically will make the time for it. And maybe you get in blood work and everything is fine. Like, you're as healthy as you are, even though you're 30% body fat. Awesome. You're the exception. But most people, they're not. And that once they see that, everything changes for them. That's what I found over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's huge. Um, I mean, me being in life insurance, all of my clients as they go through underwriting, they get blood work done. So I'll throw that out there. If anybody wants a free blood work panel, apply for life insurance. You'll get that. Not all of the blood work panels that you recommend, but you'll find out if you got fatty liver and if you're pre-diabetic, if your A1C is is creeping up there. Certainly. But yeah, that's awesome. And you have multiple different pillars and you focus on multiple different angles of health. And the way I see it is you can't look at it just one angle. If somebody says, I'm just going to lift weights. Yeah, it's going to make a little bit of difference, but if you're not optimizing every other part of that, you're not getting the best results. When you talk about optimizing your fitness, what do you really mean by that? Do you mean getting the most out of the putting in the least amount of effort to get the most result? Or because that's what some people might think of optimizing. I'm going to do as little as I have to get the best result. Quickly define just your 6 pillars, right? That you focus on. I like to relate these because fitness and finance, again, go so close together, and the ROI you get from combining different things and optimizing different aspects of that is far beyond what you get by doing just one of them, right?
Yeah. So most people that come to us, they've had trainers before, nutritionists, functional medicine practitioners. Like, they've worked with a lot of people across the board, and they're not new to fitness. We're usually the last resort, last stop they come once they've tried everything and nothing has really worked long term. So when they come to us, what they really appreciate is that all is in-house, all is in one. And the reason all is in one package or all combined together is you need everything for it to really hit and work. So if you have just a diet, but the workout's not dialed in, or you have a nutrition guy and a workout guy, and they're not on the same page. The nutrition guy will say, "Hey, you got to do low carb. Your A1C is high," and the fitness guy, the personal trainer, will say, "Wow, you got to load up on those carbs. You're gonna squat tomorrow and deadlift." And I say, "Well, what do I do? Do I listen to this guy? Do I listen to this guy?" Right? You want to have like a North Star, and the entire team behind you will have the same strategy and priorities and sequence, and everyone is on the same page, right? So rather than having like 10 different people or two different people or whatever, we have it all in house. So everyone is on the same page. The team and I define a strategy and include all the pillars. So the first one is like the lifestyle assessment that we do. Um, and you could say also a little bit of DEXA scan and any other scan that we need to. And that gives us our blueprint on what works for you psychologically, preferences, schedule, your archetype, and what you've tried before, what has worked, what hasn't worked. And the other thing is the DEXA that tells us, okay, how much muscle mass you have, how much fat, where's your six pack weight, where's your 10% weight, how's your bone density, visceral fat, like what needs to change in the diet. So that gives a good overview. And then we combine that with blood work, where that gives us kind of diagnostics, insight, what's working, what's not working, and what strategy will be best for someone: low carb, high carb, moderate carb, more animal protein, less animal protein, like whatever that looks like for each person, right? Low FODMAP, high histamine, low histamine, again, whatever diet. So these set the foundations, and then we lay it all out from nutrition. So what we eat, when to eat, how much we eat, where to source it, meaning are you meal prepping or eating out in restaurants like sushi, steakhouse, tacos, burritos. We can lay that all out. Hey, when you go to steakhouse, order this. When you go to sushi place, order this. Like all done for you.
Mhm.
Workouts, same thing. We put it all in the app. They rotate every 7 weeks. And, we base on those on progress photos. So if I say Dave has huge arms but small pecs, well, we're not just going to train arms and pecs with the same amount of stimulus. We're going to load the stimulus for the arms to maintain it, not to lose it, and increase stimulus for the pecs so that he's more proportional, more aesthetic. Because it's not about size, it's really about aesthetics
Mhm.
that gives you the nice look that we want. We have a chiropractic doc on the team, so he looks at biomechanics and posture, because you can be like the super jacked and ripped guy, but if you have like poor posture or always lower back pain, tight hips, tight shoulders, shoulder pain, wrist pain, then it's not really going to stick long term. You're going to run into a lot of issues, right? So we have that. And then, we have the coaching that's split up in two. So one-on-one coaching, we coach every client one-on-one, check in with them, do calls, whatever they need. But we also have the group of a lot of high achievers, successful guys, rainmakers, that is really, I would say, one of the best masterminds out there, because I've paid a lot of money to be in top-notch masterminds. But here you have a lot of people who are health conscious and health committed, who are making high six, high seven, eight, high eight figures, all in the group, with networking events, mastermind calls. Like, you really have the business aspect in there as well. And, those are the pillars and the way it's all combined into one.
Yeah, I love that, especially getting everybody in all of those different pillars working on the same page. I think people they misalign that a lot in their fitness and in their finances, where maybe they've got a CPA telling them to do one thing with their money, an investment advisor, an insurance guy, and they're all button heads and nobody's getting a straight answer. So I love that. I love that process, man. Well, I love what you do. It's been great having you on, and I'm going to have a link to your site in the show notes. So if anybody's interested, checking it out and really dialing in their fitness and optimizing it, they can reach out to you. I know you're all over LinkedIn. In fact, that's where I connected with you, because I was following your posts and you would say some pretty outlandish stuff sometimes. Like, some stuff like, whoa, I can't believe this guy's saying this on LinkedIn. And it's intriguing. And then it becomes, oh, I think he's onto something here. And then finally reached out to you and said, hey, I think you're the guy I want to work with, because we're kind of aligned in the way we think about stuff, and very kind of non-mainstream, I guess you would say, right?
Yes.
All about optimizing, not normalizing. I think if you go to traditional mainstream, they just want you to be normal, fall within that normal range. No, let's optimize. So I love that message. Well, thanks for being with us, Mauro. Dude, it's been a pleasure. I love watching your journey and continue following you. And I still read your posts, and I still get, free information from you. So I love the learning, and I appreciate what you do, man.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's been a great conversation. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. All right, buddy. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard today, please share it with somebody you know and hit the subscribe button. And if you're looking for more resources on finances, on entrepreneurship, or leadership, check out davidbefort.com. Thanks for listening.